How are you, John?
I'm doing wonderful, Peter. It's so good to hear from you. I got your text this morning. I thought, heck yeah, I'll get up. I got up, put my Satchel Paige replica Kansas City Monarch jersey on just for you.
I love it. I love this look for you. I usually am seeing you in a suit. I like seeing casual throwback jersey JBL.
Absolutely. I'm a huge fan of Satchel Paige. In fact, I'm going to the museum hopefully soon there in Kansas City to see some of the I just read a Buck O'Meal book from the old Black Leagues. What a great book. Corey Graves recommended it to me.
Yeah, I actually overheard you guys having that conversation. This is like a jersey that you could have stolen from John Cena when you were feuding with John Cena.
Absolutely, 100%. Back then I bashed it. Now I just wear it. I'm the old guy wearing a Satchel Paige jersey.
So how you been, man? How's life in general for John Bradshaw Layfield?
Things are great. Things are terrific. I do a show every week with Mr. Briscoe, Gerald Briscoe. And the main reason I do it, we don't make money off it. We just have fun. And I get to talk to my friend all the time. We started it in COVID. And I realized that, and I'm not promoting the show, I'm just telling you what I'm doing. We were just bored and wanted to talk to somebody. And so that's been the whole thing. So I literally talk to Mr. Briscoe almost every day about baseball, about a million different things. And it's just fun. It's fun going back as the old guy now and seeing everybody. It's like a family reunion. WrestleMania was a lot of fun to go to.
Yeah, you hadn't been around, so it was weird. So you started doing stuff on TV every week, and so then they pulled you off the kickoff shows at that point, and now things are kind of all different with the kickoff shows. But I hadn't seen you for a while. Did you miss sort of that? Because the kickoff show is the perfect way to be involved. You show up once a month, every couple months, say hello. And did you miss it, not getting to be around it there for a while?
100%. Yeah, it's so much fun now. When I first retired, I got hurt and I had to retire immediately and didn't plan to. And then Vince and Kevin put me in commentary, and I didn't really enjoy it because I was really still wanting to be in the ring. Now I have no desire to get in the ring, so I just enjoy talking about the matches. And these matches, these young guys and girls they're just fantastic. It's fun to come in and talk about these guys and girls. But it's also great to see the people backstage. Sit in the dressing room. The dressing room we sit in, the TV room, whatever it is, the TV locker room. I think it is with Corey Graves and usually Bobby Lashley and a bunch of other guys. It's just fun to be in there. The great banter.
Yeah, well, you're the king of that banter. The banter circles around you and Book. If you or Booker is there, you guys kind of hold court, tell stories, and everyone sits under the learning tree. It's a ball.
It's, the thing is when guys were, I started the business, we didn't have social media. And so because of that, we had to entertain ourselves. We didn't have a brand we were creating. We didn't have an outlet for our creativity or anything. So guys just sit and told stories. Guys would make up stories on the road and come tell them in the dressing room. It was some of the most fun times. Anybody who talks about the old days loves the banter that was going on because you had really creative guys having a lot of fun talking. And that's the one thing that I really miss.
So when you did initially retire, how old were you when you initially retired?
I think I was around 40, 41. I'm not sure. Somebody will correct me. I promise, but I'm not sure. I was older when I got the title. I was in my late 30s, I believe is when it was. I'd worked with Ron, and I would have been happy being an APA member until I retired. I was happy with that. But Ron's 6 or 7 years older than me, plus he's had a ton of injuries. So it was time for Ron to retire, and all of a sudden I'm left on my own. And fortunately, I got this incredible run with Eddie. So I was much older when I got that title run as part of my career. Which is kind of good because if I'd have got it early, I might not have appreciated it as much.
I'm sure. And so you're born in 1966. Your big run on top was 06 basically, right? 05, 06, that range. 04 to 06, I guess.
Yeah.
And so right around 40 years old, did you think like all the different iterations that your character had, the Bradshaw character, Hawk, all those things, did you think that being on top of the mountain was still sort of out there as a possibility for you? Or had you been satisfied being like, hey, I'm happy to be a mid-card, upper mid-card guy. It's a good time for me.
Yeah, no. To answer your first question, no, I don't think it was. I didn't think it was a possibility. After 9/11, there was a big patriotic fervor, and I went over to Afghanistan, the first group to go into Afghanistan with Daryl Worley and the Sergeant Major of the Army, 12th Sergeant Major of the Army, Jack Tilley. And that's when I came up with the idea for Tribute to the Troops. And after that, I was going to Iraq every year, sometimes twice a year. And I kind of thought that was going to be my role. And I was fine with that. I didn't think this run was in the cards. I was older and I tried to come back for a couple runs, and every one of them got shortened somehow. Either the guy left the company that I was supposed to wrestle against, or I got hurt. I tore a bicep. I was supposed to come back again in a big storyline, and I got a hernia and had to have surgery. So I just kept getting hurt. I thought, man, I might just be too old to do this. And I really thought that my role would be kind of as a liaison with the armed forces, but I was fine with that. I wasn't resigned like, oh man, I really miss being a world champion or having that run. I didn't think it was going to happen. So it was all just completely a surprise to me.
And then when you had it, it was a pretty glorious run. I mean, it really worked. It was when I was first getting back into wrestling in my early 20s when you were on top. So I had been gone during the Attitude Era. I was in college. I was at the radio station. I was aware that wrestling was big at that time, but I just didn't have time for it at that stage of my life. So I came back in 05, and you were this monster heel who kind of was running roughshod over SmackDown. So not only did you end up getting your run, but it was so big, and in the end, you ended up playing such a critical role in the careers of several guys who went on to become faces of the company. I mean, John Cena, incredibly important run with you. Batista, incredibly important run with you. Rey Mysterio, incredibly important run with you. So like, does that whole part of your career feel like a kind of a dream that wasn't ever even supposed to happen?
100%. When I say I owe Eddie Guerrero 100% of my career for JBL, I owe him 100%. That they would have never happened without Eddie Guerrero. I came back and they kind of created this JBL character, and it didn't work. It didn't work at all. And
was it your idea, the JBL character?
I don't know for sure. I know I'd pitched an idea that was very similar. It was kind of a J.R. Ewing type character. It was guys I grew up with in West Texas that I really hated. Guys, when I grew up in West Texas, it was a poor area. It was a poor time. Oil prices had gone south. Cattle prices had gone south. People were very poor. We had a couple guys with DeLoreans and Lamborghinis driving around town, and they were just jerk. I hated those guys. They were guys with money. They were redneck rich. They hit oil, and that was it. That's the kind of character I always wanted to play, because I thought if I hate those guys as much as I do, everybody else will hate me for playing those guys. So I had this idea. It was kind of also a combination with J.R. Ewing. I'd pitched that to Vince, but now I don't know if that's where Vince came up with the JBL idea or not, but I had pitched an idea very similar. Vince doesn't see it at all as J.R. Ewing, because I've heard interviews since. So Vince came up with this idea, and I don't know if my input had any influence on that or not.
But either way, it landed where it landed. And so why was Eddie's role so important in your career?
When I first started, it just didn't work. People saw me as the beer drinking Bradshaw. I've been going over to the troops. It just didn't work. And people didn't see me as a main eventer. And so Chavo, Eddie's brother, came up with the idea to give Eddie's mother a heart attack in El Paso on Mother's Day weekend when they're honoring Guerrero. It's very similar to an angle that he had done with Piper back in the mid 70s, I guess it was, in the Coliseum in LA. And maybe that's where he got the idea. But they pitched the idea to me, and we did that storyline. And when Miss Guerrero went down, I don't know what place held, it was sold out that day, and it was almost 100% Latino. They're all there to see Gory Guerrero's widow and Eddie Guerrero, her son. And then I come out, and she fakes this heart attack, and Eddie has been busted open with a chair, and he's down. Eddie looks at me and says, "Essay, you better get the F out of here. You're going to get killed." We had state troopers around the ring. We're filming it kind of like the old barroom brawl they did in Memphis, kind of from security cameras, so it looked more realistic. And the state troopers are going, "John, you've got to get out of here. This place is going to riot." Well, I'm thinking I've got to get this on camera, because if I live to get through this, I'm the hottest heel in the world.
This is on TV. This is a house show.
That's right. It's just a house show. And that's why people thought it was legitimate, I believe. And the place got completely silent. I mean, completely silent. Then you started hearing that rumble of, a place about to riot. And they got me out of the arena. My car was running. They made me drive all the way to Odessa to fly out. They said, "We can't guarantee your safety. We think somebody might kill you here in El Paso." So I literally had to drive all the way to Odessa by myself. And of course, Miss Guerrero called me to see if I was okay. And, I'm like, "I pray you're okay, because I'm dead if you're not." So And when that video aired, everything changed. We weren't selling tickets for the Staples Center. We was going to be a terrible show. It's going to be a one and done for me as JBL. And after that, the place sold out. I was told it set an attendance record that day, which is easy to do in wrestling because you fill the place around the floor. You don't have basketball. You don't have the space there. So, and everything changed. And it was all because of Eddie and his brother Chavo. So when I say I owe 100% of my career to Eddie, I owe 100%. Because think about what he did. He not only gave me the storyline that catapulted my career into this long championship run, he took the title off himself, essentially, by giving me this hot storyline. And Eddie was fine with that. Eddie used to call me all the time. He'd call me 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. He never slept. And he goes, I got an idea essay. And he would have an idea for me, even when I wasn't working with him. He loved the JBL character. Eddie and I got along really well. I did part of his eulogy at his funeral. He was a groomsman at our wedding. We were good friends.
When did the friendship start?
We were from the same area. We never wrestled. He was always in WCW or Japan, and I was always in WWE. But once we first met each other, we got along really well. I mean, you're from the same area of West Texas, even though West Texas is huge. There's a lot of commonality with Eddie. We always had a lot of fun talking and joking and banter, and we understood guys we hated. That's why we both understood the JBL character really well. We also understood the dynamic of immigrants into the country and how polarizing that was. And so that's another reason that we were able to be successful with the JBL character.
We live in a time now where the business is completely exposed practically all the time, and for better and for worse. And you are from a period still where, even though it was the 90s, it certainly wasn't what it may have not been 1983, but it certainly wasn't 2023 either. Lines are blurry, and to this day, I would imagine there are people out there who, even though they understand the wrestling business is a work, they hate your guts, and they associate you in an actual negative way with the Eddie Guerrero character, with the Rey Mysterio character. These guys who, even if they were to step back and think about it and go, well, obviously these were colleagues who were working together, there was something so realistic about what you did. Do you love that people feel that way? Or do you kind of wish, hey, at this point, do you guys realize now I was a character?
That's a great question, because I don't know if I'll love it or not, or just kind of appreciate it that hopefully it was a good job well done, because people still conflate me with JBL. People still consider me this right-wing crazy lunatic that hates immigrants, so I'm the guy who's coming up with the storyline is the immigrant himself, which actually wasn't an immigrant. He's born in America. But yeah, I go down a couple weeks a month, take care of my mother down in Texas, and the yard guy just this past week was going, hey, can I ask you about something? And he was asking me about something with Eddie Guerrero. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. That's 20 years ago. And so I told him the whole story. He thought it was great. And, but yeah, I still get it all the time.
Like that, it's just such a mixed bag, because in one sense, what a tribute to how well you guys did the job. And in another sense, everybody else now, all the bad guys get to walk around and take pictures with people.
Yeah.
That wasn't the time that you lived in. I mean, you were, I'm guessing, all the way through your big run on top. Were you walking past kids in the airport? Were you full blown living it all the time?
Yeah, I used to drive my wife crazy. It was 100%. I would never sign an autograph. I would never take a picture, nothing, because the problem was, if you're going into the arena and there are kids there and their parents there, they're your hardcore fans, and they're going to be sitting up close. And if they're not booing you with real venom, then it hurts you. And so those are the people that I would purposely avoid and just walk past, just ignore, wouldn't say a word. I mean, I remember one time I was walking through an airport, and some lady comes up with her child and says, hey, look, I know it's all just acting and stuff. Would you give my kid a picture? I know you're just playing this bad guy on TV. I just walked on like I didn't ignore her. And she looked at me, she goes, you're an asshole. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
But there had to be times where it's hard, right? We're like,
oh my goodness. Yeah. There were times I'd sneak back around and give a kid an autograph or something where nobody would see it, but yeah, it was tough. It was, but back then that was kind of expected. Roddy Piper always told me that there aren't many people who really want to be a heel. And there really aren't. I mean, any generation, there aren't really people that want to be a heel. People say they want to be a heel, but they want to have a heel section. They want to be a heel, but they still want to be able to sell merchandise. And people go, oh, you're a good heel. If people are saying you're a good heel, you're not a good heel because people understand it's a work. People need to look at you like I remember for one of the first times I ever ran into what they would call a smart mark back in the day. Somebody told me, said, man, I hate Killer Tim Brooks. And I said, why? He said, his work rate's terrible. And I'd never heard that term before. And I said, well, why do you hate him? I just don't like him. It's not his character. I don't like him. I said, well, let me ask you a question. He's not a good worker, right? And the person said, no, a terrible worker. I said, if Stan Hansen came in to wrestle Killer Tim Brooks, would you pay to go see it? The guy without hesitation said, I'd pay double. I said, you're right. He's not a good worker.
Exactly right.
You know, the guys that make you believe that you're the character, those are your real heels, and you don't know they're heels. You know, you don't, you just say, I don't like that person. And if somebody tries to defend them, say, no, they're just playing a heel. No, they're really a jerk. I really hate them.
Right. It's not that. It's that. Okay, so then how about this, though? Then let's talk about something modern day. What does that mean for a Dominik Mysterio who gets booed everywhere and people love booing him, but there does seem to be a wink and nod with the audience that they appreciate hating Dominik Mysterio? Or is that unique to his situation because he's a legit heel, but he is named Mysterio? And there is just a thing there.
I think it's probably unique to Dominik. Dom is awesome. There's not a bigger fan in the world of Dom than me. I tell him all the time how great he's doing. I remember one time he did an interview and I was there and he did half of it in Spanish and people booed him like crazy. Well, we're in a place that didn't have many Latinos. It wasn't like anybody knew what he said. He just said it with such venom that people booed him like crazy, not knowing he could have been reciting the phone book for Monterey. It doesn't matter. It was him. He was getting incredible heat, and he has the ability to do that. I mean, I am so proud of Dom. It's so good to see him. And I don't know if it's unique to him. Every heel's different. You know, there's attraction heels and here's heel heels. You know, like D-Generation X, the Freebirds, NWO. Those were attraction heels. Roman Reigns, attraction heel. He sold headline WrestleMania more than anybody in history. You know, so there's nothing wrong with either heel. It's just a different version. There's also your pure heels, your Iron Sheiks, your Ted DiBiase's, your JBLs, your Roddy Pipers, your Gorgeous Georges. You know, there's people like it's just a different heel. They both can draw money just the same, but it's different.
That is a really interesting point. The attraction heel versus the just, and you never, until your career was over, did you have any real moment once you, as a babyface, like once you were big time, was there a moment when you came out to cheers?
No, absolutely not. Even you know, they put me out there against another heel they'd boo me. Yeah, the thing was I was very careful about. I remember one time Vince pulled me aside and he says, "Don't be entertaining out there today. You know, don't be funny, don't be out loud, and don't be entertaining in a way that people are going to like you," because people were starting to enjoy the JBL heel. And so you got to be careful if you're that pure heel, as I talk about, compared to an attraction heel. You got to be very careful. If they like something, take it away from them. Don't give it to them, and they'll hate you for that because they want to say along with you. You go to say a catchphrase, and they start singing along with you. I remember Road Dogg came out one time when he was a heel, and somebody started singing, "Oh, you didn't know," with him, and he stopped and he goes, "This isn't sing along with Road Dogg," and the people booed him because they wanted to do that. And so he took it away from. Sometimes you got to take that away from them if you find something that people are starting to cheer.
That's one of the things I've been impressed with MJF. MJF is clearly appreciated by the fan base, but and obviously his most recent run, he was a babyface. But when the bulk of his young career, being a heel, when the crowd gets too into something, even at a young age, he's realized I have to take it away and make them boo me again. Because at the stage that the era that we live in, if you're too good at being a heel, yeah, people are immediately, you're going to become everyone's favorite. And you got to kind of fight that tooth and nail. But that's a very interesting anecdote to hear you say it. Are anyone else out there? First of all, have you gotten a chance to watch MJF? Is there anyone else out there you've seen doing heel work recently besides Dominik that you go, all right, there's something here?
I haven't seen MJF much. I've seen, you know, just social media stuff. You know, I don't. there's so much wrestling out there, and I'm still with WWE. So when I watch something, it's WWE because you only have so much time to watch. I got to meet MJF over in England. I'm blown away by him. What a great guy! And the questions he was asking was very intelligent. He was asking stuff about Roddy Piper and being a heel. It was we shared a car ride together back to the airport. A really smart young guy. I mean, I'm a big fan of him personally. There's some pretty good heels out there. I mean, it's Roman Reigns to me was a guy we never thought we'd see another dominant run like Bruno Sammartino or Hogan had. We never thought we'd see that in the modern era. For Roman Reigns to do that was one of the most incredible things in the history of the business. And now Cody following that, I mean, this is historic times right now.
Now, Cody is, I admit, I'm one of the people who early on, when Cody lost at WrestleMania 39, I thought, okay, it's a matter of time before he turns. It can't last. And now here we are more than a year later. He's world champ and people are still cheering him. Is there a part of you, though, just being such a heel, that you look at Cody's look, his style, the suits, and just can so easily picture how iconic a heel run someone like that could have?
Oh, absolutely. No, there's no doubt about it. You look at guys, look at not to get off Cody's, look at Austin Theory. I mean, that's a good looking young guy, great body. That has got Gino Hernandez heat written all over it. I mean, that is just, and Austin Theory is another one of these guys. I'm blown away by the young man. He talks to me occasionally when I'm there, and the questions he asks are different from what everybody else has.
Really, so he has he gets it.
He 100% he gets it. I'm blown away by the intelligence of Austin Theory and the questions he asks about wrestling. They're the ones that get down to the nitty gritty about drawing money. I love that. And Cody, to me, Cody's been successful everywhere he's been. I'm such a fan of Cody. I was tag team partners with his dad's tag team partner, Dick Murdoch. and of course, love Dusty like everybody did, and his brother Dustin. But Cody, to me, he left. He could have taken money and stayed with WWE. He bet on himself, and that is remarkable. And look what he's done with it. He's held titles everywhere he's been. He's headlined everywhere he's been. Now he's headlined two of the biggest, maybe I guess the biggest WrestleManias back to back alongside Roman Reigns. That's incredible. It's hard to find somebody to stand across from Roman Reigns. You got The Rock out there. You got Paul Heyman out there. You've got history on Roman Reigns' side. For somebody to stand across from him, that's next to impossible. And Cody Rhodes did it and filled that role. And now he's the one that took over from Roman. It's a heck of a run.
Speaking of The Rock, were you impressed with The Rock's willingness to go as far as he went with this final boss situation in the last several months?
Yeah, absolutely. I expected it. And I say expected it because expectations are outsized when you talk about The Rock. I was there when The Rock got hot, and he would go after, these Attitude Era cards that were just loaded with talent for 3 hours in live events. And he would get the microphone and for 30 minutes say all his little catchphrases and stuff and entertain people who had already seen 3 hours of wrestling. It was one of the most remarkable things to this day that I've ever seen. We'd sit there and watch and go, no one else in the world can do this. I mean, he's just that gifted. And I figured he would do the right thing for business. I mean, and just it was kind of an expectation. And, he looks like, as Kevin Nash says, he's the only guy who looks better than his action figure. So
I know. It's insane. What was your relationship like with young Rock when you were, I mean, you guys really were kind of finding yourselves at the same time to some degree in WWF.
Yeah, I worked with The Rock some when he was Rocky Maivia. We were over in England. I think I remember specific matches and matches later with him. I got along fine with him. I wasn't in the role that he was. He was dealing with Undertaker and Stone Cold and Triple H and Shawn and those guys. I was, in a role lower on the card, but also in a role in a tag team. So didn't have much direct influence with him, but Rock's always been the nicest guy. I mean, I've run into him, so many times over the years. There's not a star probably bigger in the world than The Rock. I mean, it's insane. I mean, you might can name a couple guys, but if you do, you're naming guys that are, to be in that category is incredible. And he's just like he was when he broke in, from what I've seen. It's just incredible. He's one of those guys that has made it huge that doesn't have any detractors, any real detractors. That's incredible that you don't have people that are just jealous of him going, he doesn't deserve that. He doesn't deserve that.
On one of the A&E documentaries recently that I saw like a year ago, Austin talked about how when they came up to him and said, how's the merch doing? And when they said that Rocky was getting close with the merch, that's when Austin was kind of like, oh, really? Were you able to sense any level of competition between them when they were both at their heights?
Yeah, absolutely. And we knew how lucky we were at the time. You know, business was terrible. I came in 1995. We had all of the guys that would be these incredible characters in the Attitude Era. You know, Kane was a dentist. Triple H was an aristocrat. Steve was a ringmaster. You know, you had guys that were there, but in gimmicks that didn't work. Scott and Kevin were Razor and Diesel. You know, and then all of a sudden this whole place exploded. When Steve got hot, it was unbelievable. You could put his name on any building in the world, and we sold that arena out. That's how business just went from nothing to I'd never seen anything like it. And when The Rock came along, you always had a tough time finding an opponent for Steve because he was that hot. When The Rock came along, we realized we got somebody that can go out there with Steve and actually go toe-to-toe with him. We knew that Rock was getting over like crazy.
Well, listen, I know you have a lot of things to do. If it's all right with you, I would like in this new era of the Cheap Heat podcast, I would love to have these conversations in a semi-regular way. Now, I don't want to be responsible if the world actually finds out that you're not a horrible guy.
Don't tell anyone. Good grief, it'd be terrible.
No, I don't want anyone to know. I do want to have more of these conversations. I do fear that over time they may figure it out. But if you're up for it, John, I'd love to have you back on to just shoot the shit every once in a while.
So anytime you want me to come on, Peter, I will put on. I actually have. I don't have a Jackie Robinson, but I do have a Nolan Ryan and a Babe Ruth.
All right, so save the jersey. It'll be your gimmick when you come on the show. We look forward to it.
That's right.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, Peter.